Hello, I'm Felicity Cohen. I'm so excited to introduce you to my Wellness Warriors podcast. For over 20 years, I've been a passionate advocate for helping thousands of Australians find solutions to treating obesity and health-related complications through surgical intervention and holistic managed care. My podcast is dedicated to all the people, past, present and future, who have helped shape my journey and continue to inspire me to work consistently to achieve a healthier Australia in both adults and future generations. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Wellness Warriors podcast. Today I would like to introduce you to Chris Walker. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming on board. So you've had an amazing life journey, and I'd like to sort of go back to the beginning before I get to your most recent incredible achievements. You grew up in Toowoomba?
Yes, grew up in Toowoomba, 4 boys. So my mother, Trish, who is the salt of the earth, raised me and my 3 brothers along with my father, Gary. And we've had a pretty extensive rugby league career, all the family. Started with obviously my father playing in the 70s and the 80s in the Brisbane comp. That's when your likes of Wally Lewis and Mel Meninga and all that played in the Brisbane comp. So, and then the natural progression for us 4 boys was to sort of follow in the footsteps of my father and my mother Trish. Her brother played for the Queensland Rugby Union Reds back then. So rugby league and
in your veins. You didn't have much of a choice, did you? So wow, you were very competitive as brothers playing the same sport together.
Yes, we were very, very, very competitive with my brothers, and whatever we did as siblings playing, and we grew up without a TV we had no TV for probably about 11 years.
Oh, that's already my favourite thing. That is incredible.
It was the most amazing childhood. I didn't go without, but just the camaraderie that I have with my brothers through growing up without a TV, not sitting in front of a TV, having dinner like I do sometimes with my family. I've got 3 kids and my wife. We sit there and sometimes we'll sit there and watch TV and have dinner. But for me, growing up as a kid, we'd all sit around the table, all of my 3 brothers and my mum and dad, and we would talk, and that's how come me and my brothers are so close and my family are so close, is because we grew up all our lives, talking and expressing what we did at school, and if we had a bad day at school, we could talk about it around the dinner table because everyone was all ears. And usually you'd sit there for 45 minutes to an hour, and then once we completed our chores, which consisted of washing and wiping up, putting away, and we had our rosters as kids, and that's how mum and dad raised us. We had our chores, and if we didn't stick by it, we can't do it now, but we'd cop a smack by mum or dad and be put back into line. And it was a childhood that not many kids got to experience, but I know that my development as an adult has stemmed from the closeness that I've got with my mum and dad and my brothers and the way we were brought up.
I think that is incredible, the value that we place around dinner time, but having that focus on around a dinner table. And I love that, because for me that's always been super important. My dining table, there's no way I'll ever have it near a TV.
Yep.
And I'm still like that. My children are in their 20s, but sitting around the table with them is still the most important thing ever.
It is, and even that continues now. Like we have Christmases together where we all are together. We do get together a lot. My mum and dad live at Burleigh, and my younger brother Luke, he lives on the Gold Coast. Ben lives in Ipswich, and Shane lives in Brisbane. So there's not a vast area where we've got to go to all to be together. But when we do catch up, it's the TV's off. Even now, like we all sit around. Mum and dad have 13 grandkids, so they all go play and do what they got to do, and we all sit around and we talk and we communicate. Sometimes we have arguments like all families, but it's resolved really quick, and that's because when we're young, if we did have a fight or we did have an argument, which siblings are going to, it's human nature, we resolved it pretty quick. So I'm very blessed with my childhood, and I look back on it with so many fond memories.
Spectacular. So how many of you actually ended up playing professional sport?
Yeah, we the the beauty of my older brother Ben, I'm 41 years of age, he's 45, Shane's 43, I'm 41, then my younger brother's 37. So Ben, my older brother, he's the one that sort of trailblazed us into playing NRL. He signed with the Broncos at a young age. Then obviously the progression went down. Shane, my second oldest, and then me. But then Luke, he went down and played for the Broncos, but never played first grade. So the three older boys, me, Ben and Shane, we had a very long career in the NRL, and it's something that, when you get to play football or when you get to play professional sport with your siblings and be in the same team for the Broncos or whoever we were playing for, to get to play alongside your brothers at a professional level, let alone an amateur level, was a very special moment for myself. So I can only imagine what it was like for my mum and dad and my uncles and aunties who were sitting in the grandstand watching us.
Amazing. And there was one period when all three of you were in the same team playing together.
Yes, and I think it's been 113 years of NRL football. 1908 was when rugby league was created, and it's never happened where there was three brothers play for one team against three brothers who play in the opposite team, and that happened. We played the Hughes family, the three Hughes boys. They were playing for Canterbury, and me and my brothers were playing for the Broncos, and we're on the field at the same time playing against each other. So it was a very special moment again for my mum and dad. They would have been very proud. So to play alongside your brothers at that level was a very, very good thing.
Spectacular. That would have been a really historic game and filled with memories for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And I still remember that game like it was yesterday. It was, I think it was 2001 or 2000 that happened. So, around the 20-year mark, and I still remember that as one of those games I can still remember in the back of my head, like it was played yesterday.
And you played for a French team, Catalan?
Yeah, Catalan Dragons.
Catalan, okay. And whereabouts were they based?
So they were based the southern side of France, on the Mediterranean side, which is a little place called Canay-Plague, Perpignan. So Perpignan was Perpignan. And I was there for a year.
Did you learn to speak French?
And I couldn't speak French.
I'm upset. It's my second language. I was hoping we could have a bit of a chat in French.
No, I was very rusty.
Now I'm disappointed.
No, and then, sorry to disappoint you, but I just couldn't. My wife picked it up she picked it up pretty good. So if we went to the shops, I knew, if I was with Courtney, I knew that she could, relate to the locals and whatnot. But I couldn't, for some reason, it must have been I've had too many head knocks, I don't know. But I just couldn't pick up the language. And we're only there for a year, so it wasn't like I was over there for 10 years. But a lot of the guys who I played football with that were from Australia that have been over there for 2 or 3 years. Some of them had been there for 5 or 6 years, and they could speak fluent French.
Amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
Once you're immersed in it, it's a lot easier to learn.
Yeah.
I think the first year is probably the hardest.
Yep.
If you'd stayed on, I'm guaranteeing you would have been speaking fluent French with me right now.
I picked up a few little words. Parlez anglais? Or do you speak English? It's been 11 years since I was there, but I really enjoyed my time there. It was, to play, to get the opportunity to travel the world and in my sport was amazing. And I remember where Perpignan is, it's about probably 25 minutes north of the Spanish border in France. And I remember the first week I was there, I rang Dad and Mum, and Dad goes, "What did you do today?" And I said, I drove to Spain, I drove to Barcelona, went and had lunch, and drove home. It was all in one day. And
spectacular. And
I said to Dad, I said, you know what, if I drive a half an hour from your place, I'm in New South Wales, but to experience that type of experience where you drive 25 minutes and you're in a different country. And
the landscape changes so vastly, the culture changes, the food, everything changes.
Where we were, like I said, we were right on the Mediterranean, so we're on that side. Took us 4.5 hours to drive to Nice, and we'd spend a lot of time in Nice and Monaco and all that sort of stuff. And to experience that culture was just phenomenal. And I'm very grateful to be able to say that through my profession and professional sport, I was given that opportunity to go experience things that not many people get to experience when they're working and getting paid for it. So again, rugby league has given me so much, and I'm very appreciative of being given the opportunity to play professional rugby league and professional sport.
Amazing. What did you see as the differences in terms of being part of a French league compared to an Australian league? Was it a very different football culture?
Yeah, it was similar, but it wasn't, because we obviously the language barrier. There were in my team, because we had Cattle and Dragons were new into the Super League. Like, we played in the English Super League, so they're professional comp over there. And because it was a new team or a new organisation into that Super League era, we were given the okay to have more Australian players in the team. So there were a lot of Australian players in the team anyway. I think it was half-half, whereas if you play in a Super League, I think you couldn't have more than 3 or 4 players from Australia in one team. But the culture was exactly the same. But the language barrier for me, a lot of the French guys could speak fluent English, so that made that barrier a lot easier. But the football culture over there is very similar to Australia, and at that time when I did leave, it was getting stronger.
Amazing. At what point in time did you actually exit professional rugby? How long ago?
Yeah, so 2001, so 2011. So virtually this time 10 years ago, I retired from playing rugby league, and I was playing for the Parramatta Eels in Sydney, and had a business going on in Australia, in southeast Queensland, and just had the opportunity halfway through the year, because business was starting to go well, to bring my family back home, where my wife is from Toowoomba. I'm from Toowoomba, and she's got family up on the Gold Coast. So it just made it a lot easier. We were away from her family for 2 or 3 years, and away from my family, and have that opportunity to kickstart my business back here in southeast Queensland was a good enough excuse for me to finish my career. I was 31 years of age and sort of getting to the end of my career, and I knew that I had to retire, because I started losing the passion for playing rugby league. And once you lose a passion and you can't get it back, which I tried to get it back, I tried to love it again, that's when I knew that it was time for me to exit and leave rugby league, and now I'm just a fan watching it.
So when you say the passion had kind of dwindled for you, do you think that's because it was such a all-empowering, all-encompassing kind of lifestyle that you lived and breathed it every day, and it had a moment in time where it just, that was it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it sort of sucked the life out of me as much as it could, and I'm happy for that, because I used to have people come up to me and say, you've had a great career. I used to love watching you play and all that sort of stuff. But because I had such a young family, it was time to put my efforts back into those guys, into my 3 kids and my wife, who uprooted her life to follow me around the world, and for me to bring Courtney and the kids back to my parents and Courtney's parents and Courtney's brother and sister and my brothers, it was the right time. Like I said, it sucked the life out of me, but I was happy with my decision, and so was Courtney.
Awesome. So the last 10 years, what has that been like for you? You had a business to come back to here in Queensland? Yeah,
I had a earth moving business as my exit strategy from rugby league, and we fell on hard times probably 4.5 years ago now, and things really, really hit the fan. But what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, and the life's lessons and the business lessons that I learnt from going through that period, I'm much wiser for the run. Unfortunately, for Courtney and I, because it was such a stressful time in my life, it sort of galvanised Courtney and I as a team, and that was probably one of the best things I got out of what we went through. With earth moving, it can be very turbulent. The bills don't be paid, and people don't want to pay you sometimes, but that's all a part of the learning curve. And unfortunately, we did fall on hard times, but like the old saying, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So we're firmly back on our feet, and with the kids being the age they are at 11 and 13, the twins are 11, Harper's 13. We're in a mindset now where it's so strong, and we've advanced so far from 4 years ago, and like I said, it's galvanised us as a family, and Courtney and I as a team. So if you can take life lessons out of what do they say? If you get dealt lemons, make lemonade. So we're making lemonade.
100%. You've got to go through, and I was talking about this earlier today, you actually have to go through those failures to become the success that you are today. Yep. That's what has actually, you possibly needed that to actually be the success you are, and whether that means how that's translated to you in your relationship at home with your wife and your family,
Yep.
but also in all of your future successes are going to be so much better, so much more powerful. Our failures are so valuable, and I don't think you can really grasp that until you've been there and had that moment in time.
100%. Yeah, it's all about, well, for me, it's about life lessons. And I've spoke to some of the most successful businessmen who have been a part of my rugby league journey. And the thing is, when you don't realise it as a young kid coming into playing first grade or a professional sport, the sponsors that are on board, a lot of those guys, are the beauty of playing at some very successful clubs involved, and with those successful clubs, there's a lot of very successful businessmen, both on the board, directors, sponsors, and they give you advice. There was so many of the most wealthiest guys that I know have been through so many hard times of their business careers, but it doesn't deter them. It actually makes them stronger, and they come back bigger and better every time. And unfortunately, I've hit rock bottom with that, but with personal development, I'm way above rock bottom.
Yeah, and you probably had a lot of lessons from football that has made you so resilient as well, because you have to learn as a young person as well. You're not going to win every game. You're not always going to be a winner, and you translate that to how you actually perform in business as well. Not everything is going to work out the way you'd like it to. Every
day with business, I resorted back to what I learnt in my professional career and playing in professional teams and being involved in a team environment and a successful team environments. And sometimes you are away and you forget those little lessons that that you pick up through being in a sporting environment and a team environment that you do translate into business.
Yeah.
And they are so similar. Everything is so similar.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous. If you know how to work a team, which when I had my earth moving business going, I forgot that, and that sort of escaped me. And in hindsight's a beautiful thing. I look back and I go, if I'd have taken those skills that I'd learnt from a Wayne Bennett or a Craig Bellamy, well then I wouldn't have been in this situation. So business and playing in a professional team and a professional sport are very, very similar.
Yeah, amazing self-perception and self-evaluation of those situations too. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think were some of the characteristics that underpinned for you the most successful team that you played as a part of?
Yeah, I think that honesty in the teams. I think work ethic is a massive one. Not giving up. Work ethic for me, having a great work ethic in a team environment, for me is number one. It's if you've got the work ethic, well then everyone else comes in, everyone buys into what you're doing. They know that once you're out in the football field and I'm playing next to Chris Walker and his work ethic's unreal, well then I know when I'm playing in a game, then he's got my back. Or a Darren Lockyer, who's also one of the best players I played with, has got a great work ethic. He won't let the team down. And if you're in a team environment, that's number one for me is making sure that you put in. And it's like being in business. It's like being a worker for someone. If you buy into what their culture is and having a good culture and having a good work ethic, for me, breeds good culture within teams. So you look at Melbourne Storm and you look at the teams that are down the bottom. Melbourne Storm's work ethic is unbelievable, and they work for each other and they play for each other and they get the results.
It's a shared vision, isn't it?
It is a shared vision.
Not just that shared vision, but that common kind of ethos that everyone's on the same page and that you're all driving towards the same goal.
100%.
Love that. So tell me a little bit about Fund My Challenge. We can see it right there. How did this all come about? How did you start it? And let's go back to how that was kind of created.
Well, yeah, it was created. I got talking to one of my mates who is a very, very successful businessman, and he donates a lot of money every year to charities, and he didn't realise that there are some charities out there that don't spend the money where they should. Then we saw 2 years ago or a year and a half ago with the bushfires that absolutely crippled so many communities in Australia, and if anyone doesn't know Celeste Barber, check Celeste Barber out on social media. Very, very funny comedian. Gold Coast girl, good mates with a mate of mine, Joel Parkinson, and I think her target was to raise $100,000, and she nominated that the funds were going to go to the New South Wales Royal Fire Brigade. But she didn't realise that when she had nominated those guys to be the beneficiaries of her $100,000, that her $100,000 then later went to $53 million. So she raised $53 million just on the back of her and her connections.
Oh, that is the most phenomenal story ever. It is just so exciting.
The worst thing is, not the worst, I won't say the worst thing, because the New South Wales Royal Fire Brigade, in their constitution, can only spend the money on training, new equipment, within their organisation. But Celeste thought that she was
rebuilding the towns,
rebuilding houses and whatnot. So, but they couldn't spend the money. They wanted to, but in their constitution they couldn't.
So what happened?
So they've all got new equipment, and their training facilities are, which is still great. It's
a fabulous outcome.
It's a fabulous outcome. But Celeste wanted the money to actually go to
the community,
to rebuild homes, shops, people's livelihoods, and people's lives.
Yeah.
So with Fund My Challenge, you do a challenge, and you on the platform that I think there's 58,000 registered DGR charities in Australia, and the girls in the office they vet all charities, and the charities that come on to Fund My Challenge, they need to spend at least 60% on their cause or what they say they do. So an organisation, I just walked from Cairns to Gold Coast, and I've nominated a charity called RizeUp, one of the charities. So I did 4: Global Awakening, Beyond Blue, RizeUp, which is domestic violence, and the Alcohol and Drug Foundation. So they were my 4 beneficiaries. Let's use RizeUp as an example. Mm-hmm. They house families who have been absolutely decimated by domestic violence. They go in, they get the demographic of the house, of the family that need to get out of a very violent situation. So there might be 3 kids, they're all under 10, there's 2 girls and 1 boy. They love this colour, and this colour, so they go in and they deck the rooms.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. I've watched what they do. Are they Gold Coast based only? Yeah, I've seen what they do for families.
And they've relocated 1,400 families. So,
and they've had a significant increase in domestic violence
through COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Beyond Blue have seen mental health go through the roof, Alcohol and Drug Foundation have seen their cause go through the roof. So what they do at Fund My Challenge is they give people the confidence that when they go into the app or go onto the web, they can see the charities that we've vetted that have made the cut or have gone into every criteria, and they give the people donating and the donors the confidence to know that their money that they donate is actually going to where it goes. And
so important.
Because I won't mention, because it's not a witch hunt of other charities, but some charities, some very, very big charities, you donate $100, $5 goes to the cause.
Because they've got to fund the office, the staff, and everything else before the money actually goes to the cause.
They say that it's for future endeavours or future, and then also to Fund My Challenge, if you do a challenge and you raise $100,000 and it goes to RizeUp then have 12 months to spend that on their cause, and they can't keep it for any more than 12 months. It's got to go in and distribute it and make sure that it's changing lives. So it's really cool. Like to do what I did and do my walk and raise the money that I have. We've got a function on Friday with the final figure of what I'm doing. I can't wait to present those charities with checks and then listen to see the knock-on effect or the effect that it has going down to their cause and changing lives. It's amazing. It's so good.
I love that. Was it something that you thought about every day? So this walk that you've done, you started in Cairns. It was over 1,100 kilometres.
Yeah, it was about 1,900 kilometres.
1,900,
71 days.
When did you start?
So I started on the 26th of April and finished on the 2nd of July. So 71 days from start to finish. And
Did you know how long it was going to take you, by the way?
Well, we calculated anywhere between 66 to 68 days, and that's walking 30 kilometres a day.
Yeah.
And having we were advised that I was supposed to have 4 days off, but I had 2 days off, and then coming on the other side of Brisbane, the southern side of Brisbane, I got stopped because we went into a 3-day lockdown just recently.
Oh wow! Yes.
So I ended up having the entire time 4 days off, and then it was bumped out to 71 days.
Wow.
But I met some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life.
Let's start at the beginning. I'm so fascinated.
Okay, how much time we got?
We've got.
Yeah,
I can't
good.
wait to hear. But if we can't get it all out today, you have to come back. This is exciting.
Yeah, so I started in Cairns, and the first 3 days out of Cairns, it was absolutely bucketing down with rain, and I got to walk with one of my close mates, Nate Miles. He's an ex-rugby league player, played 32 games for Queensland and in the state of origin, an absolute legend of a guy. So I got to walk with him for 12 days. So he did the first 12 days from Cairns to Townsville, because it took us 12 days. And then we had the 13th day off, because 13 is unlucky for some. And just to hear him and the way that he lives his life, he's all about time. So giving people time, not worrying about time, not being in a rush, being in the moment. And he must have got into my psyche, because I'm very much here, there, and everywhere.
I can imagine.
And now I've just become, even now I've been back for a little over 3 weeks, just under 4 weeks, and I can just sense myself just going, righto, I'm really content.
Centering yourself and being present and living in the moment.
That's right, exactly. And
very meditative.
Very.
Also so important for those people around you as well, that you must notice a difference at home, that you're present. Massive. When you're there, you're present for them.
Massive. And even my wife has said to me half a dozen times, like, you know, you've come back different. You come back really different. And also too, the knock-on effect of walking with Nate, so many people in these regions and these towns and these communities would come out. I didn't watch TV for roughly 66 days, so I wasn't watching the news, and I wasn't seeing what we're being force-fed at the moment through these media outlets that have an agenda on feeding us misinformation, and it's been force-fed down our throats. We watch the news, first 10 stories about COVID, next 5 stories about doom and gloom that's happening in the area, you know, robberies and stabbings and all that sort of stuff. I didn't watch it for 66 days. But instead, when I was walking into these communities, people knew I was coming into the region and knew I was coming into the area, and they were coming out and they were sharing their stories and listening to what we've been doing, and the walk and the people's lives. It's going to change through the foundations that I've chosen. So it might sound corny, but my heart and soul was so full of love, just brimming with just awesomeness, and there was no negativity in my life. The team that I had, which included my father, he drove one of the cars, so these are my support staff. I had my father drive the front car, then me, then Nate Miles' dad, Tony, he drove the second car, and then we had a guy, Will Van Os, he drove the back cars. He was an ex-truckie, so he was on the two ways to all the truck drivers, just to let them know that we were in the region, we're in the area. You know, please be safe, look out for us, don't go too fast, stay off the phone, keep awake. Like those sort of conversations were, you know, we're 500 metres up the road, so just watch the guys coming through. And to have that, so every night we'd all sit together, we'd all have a beer, or all have dinner together. And getting back to my team environment, I treated my team, my support team, like they were a rugby league team. Everyone knew their roles and responsibilities. No one come over the top of someone to do their role, because that role was already looked after. So it's like a halfback would never take a hit up, because that's the front rower's job in a rugby league team. It was like my dad, he was the one that always got everything prepared for the next day. Will's roles and responsibilities, making sure that all the water bottles were filled, ready to go for us the next day. I was in ice baths. Adam Varaktaris, he was our project manager. He made sure that my ice baths were ready for me to jump into after every day. And then Tony, he was just there to make sure that everyone did their roles. And it was just a team effort.
great collaboration and cooperation.
Unbelievable. And once you get into that, it took us a little while for everyone to get their roles and responsibilities. But once we all clicked into that team environment, then it made my walk, which I did 30 kilometres every day, was my limit. Was the max I could go as much as I want, but the least I could do was 30 kilometres, which roughly took me about 5.5 hours to do each day. But to have those guys there looking after me, making sure that I was safe, just put another aspect into how awesome the walk was.
Did you start walking during night hours or like headlamps? Or
no, rules. The rules were through the government and the police, because we had to get our licences to go through and our permits to go through. We couldn't walk at dark time, so early in the morning, night time, in the afternoon we couldn't walk. So we would set sail and we'd we'd be up at 5:30, wait for the sun to come through, then we'd start walking. And because we had the support vehicles, we would drive back to, we'd walk 30 k's, we'd pick a destination or a landmark, whether it be a street, a road, a stopping bay, a truck stop, a servo, and then we'd stop there in the cars back to camp, recovery, sleep, next day come back to where we finished the day before, and then go 30 k's again. And we did that for 71 days.
That is incredible. What was the most challenging moment during those 71 days? You must have had occasional moments where you thought, oh my God, not another day. How did you deal with that?
I think the hardest part of my day, every day, was the first 2 minutes I opened my eyes. That was the hardest part. Opening my eyes, and in 2 minutes, the thought of righto, and it wasn't righto, today's Monday, week 4. Today's Friday, week 5. It was righto, today's week 9, day 9, day 13, day 20, whatever day it was just the day. How many days I had, how many days I've been going for, and how many days. That was the first 2 minutes. Right, I'm at day 37. I've got 25 days to go, or whatever whatever it is. So that was the hardest part, was getting into my head that I had gone that long, and then how many days I'd left. And once you calculate it, you accept it, and you go, right, I've got to do it, because no one else is going to do the walk for me. This is my walk. It's not the Gary Walker walk. It's the Chris Walker walk. I couldn't have anyone else substitute, so I just get up and I do it. And then once I walk out of my room, if we're staying at a pub or staying at a caravan park, or I was staying in my caravan, once I walked out into the fresh air and I seen my team, getting themselves prepared, I was like, right, there's my team, let's go. And it was just a thing that I had to do. And once I got it into my head that that's what I had to do, the first 2 minutes was done and dusted, and then it became, righto, how cool is this? And people would come and join me. It was the amount of people that would find out where I was, get in contact with me through social media that I had no idea who they were. I've never met them before in my life, and say, righto, you're coming into this town, we live here, and we're inviting you and your team over to our place for a barbecue or a home cooked meal. I think that happened about probably 15 times.
That is
12 to 15 times.
Spectacular.
And then we'd have people that I'd meet that night and say, right, what time are you leaving tomorrow? And they come and join me. And it's amazing, because the excitement and the feeling that you get of freedom when you're walking along a highway, you can't explain it to people. And the night before, I'd be saying, right, come and join us for the 30 Ks. It's the best thing you can do. And they'd look at you a little bit like, how enjoyable can walking along a highway be? But within the first 2 to 3 Ks, they'd look at me and go, this is amazing. Because you're out there, you're seeing every part of Queensland landscape. So when you drive that road, you'd see one mountain and one tree. But when you walk, you see every mountain and every tree, and you see waterfalls, and you see creeks, and you see, like, it is, for your brain and for your mind and for your mindset, is probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Incredible.
And I think that kind of restores our belief in, the human spirit and the generosity of people.
Oh, 100%. I keep on going back to, keep on getting fed what we've been fed in the last 18 months with COVID. It's negative. my mother didn't leave their unit for 4 months when COVID came in, and Mum won't mind me saying this, like her mental state went from positive as to right down, and then Dad, he didn't worry about COVID, he'd play golf and he was really happy. He stayed at where he stayed at, but Mum's mindset and mental awareness and mental well-being dropped.
Fueled by fear.
We didn't talk about COVID for 66 days.
Incredible. I think I read somewhere that one of the things that inspired you to take this challenge on board for yourself was also because you had a friend who was diagnosed with motor neurone disease.
Yeah, big Charlie Webb, big Carl Webb, a guy that I'm 41 years of age, he's 40 years of age. We played, we debuted together for Queensland, and the walk was supposed to be for the Carl Webb Foundation, but what happened, his foundation wasn't a DGR registered charity, so I couldn't make any, under the constitution of Fund My Challenge, couldn't be put on. But then once I got started, we did some fundraisers in Townsville, and through the Global Awakening, which is a benevolent fund, it can then donate money and whatnot to the Carl Webb Foundation. So yeah, big Charlie Webb, unfortunately was diagnosed with motor neurons disease some time ago. So he's in a battle of his own, and you know I honestly drew some strength on some of those times when I was walking down the Bruce Highway and there was nothing there. You know, I'd often think about Carl and I'd often think about our friendship, and I drew strength on what he's going through, because there were times when I felt down, but I also know what Carl's going through, and it's very sad to see him being an absolute beast of a rugby league player in a fight that he's in at the moment is it's not the most satisfying thing to think about. And
horrible, but it makes us, I guess, aware and grateful for being able-bodied, number one, and to have the capacity and the ability to do it. The only thing stopping you ever is your mindset, and when you've got that whole positive mindset and the strength of all those other people around you, you learn anything's possible. Anything's possible,
and I learnt that walking from Cairns to Gold Coast I can do, and to see Carl, there's certain areas of his body that are shutting down through this awful disease.
Horrible.
To be quite honest with you, I didn't really know too much about up until when Webby was diagnosed, and he's still very sharp in the mind. He's that for me, talking to him on the phone and catching up with him to see where he's at is very sad for me, because I've always thought of Carl Webb as this monster of a man that destroyed rugby league teams just on his own back, and he was a giant. He was a giant in the game, and I've ridden on his back a couple of times, and just to see what he's going through is not pleasant. It's not nice, and it makes me sad.
I can only imagine. Congratulations on the walk. I think it's just absolutely incredible, and I love all of the charities that you've chosen are just so worthy. Recipients of your successful funding, just amazing, and I think highlighted by they've all become so much more prominent in terms of their need factor over the last 12 months. So you've chosen so well,
and that's what we chose. Like, obviously we couldn't do it wholly and solely for Carl, so we've had to reassess where we wanted to promote this walk and promote the charities that over the last 18 months have been really, really hard. Like their cause has increased. I think the Alcohol and Drug Foundation have seen a 400% increase in alcohol sales online, a 90% rise in calls for mental health, and obviously the domestic violence space is going through the roof. So if we can help one family or help one person get themselves back on track, well then my walk, and it's not only about raising money for those organisations. Yes, that's great, but the awareness that I've put on those charities. I know that everyone knows Beyond Blue because it's right out there, but Alcohol and Drug Foundation and RizeUp and the Global Awakening, that recognition and that awareness, people now have been able to go to them and say, right, we've seen what Chris done, and we want to. I'm having troubles with someone at home that we need to address. or I know someone who's fallen into the trap of alcohol and drugs over the last 18 months. Thank you very much for giving us that awareness.
I think that's amazing, and I hope it also has another ongoing domino effect of others who see the need to get behind raising funds for charities as well. So you've been back for just over 3 weeks.
Yep.
Are you feeling recovered and your body's feeling good? How are your feet?
Yeah, feet up too bad. They're coming all right.
How many toenails did you lose?
No, I lost 3 toenails. But the thing is, I did a walk on Saturday. I started at 2:30 in the afternoon, a walk for 24 hours, and I was doing that for White Cloud, another awesome organisation in the mental health space. And I walked for 24 hours and walked about 101, 102 kilometres. So my body hadn't fully recovered, and I probably took on that challenge way too close to my finish date from the Cairns walk, and I fell apart. I think I had about 6 hours, 7 hours to go, and I rang my wife and I told her to come pick me up because I couldn't complete the challenge. I ended up completing the challenge because she laughed at me and told me not to be so silly, and she said, listen, she said, knuckle down.
Wow.
Knuckle down. You've only got 6.5 hours to go. Knuckle down. It's all about mental toughness now, which I was putting updates on my social media. And this is another thing about humans, about the human race that I've noticed, especially over the last 3.5 months since I started my walk, is there are a lot of good people out there that give encouragement. And it's amazing. When I'd see someone do something on the side of the road that was a challenge, you give them a beep and you probably wouldn't think too much of it. But what I realised is every beep that I had, or every donation that came and stopped on the side of the road, or every words of encouragement on the side of the road, it seriously picked me up for Ks. And I would get beeps and I would get people talking to me all the way through, and they probably didn't think much of it, or they probably would have drove 10 Ks down the road or 50 Ks or got back to their destination, wherever it was, and had no second thought of it. But when I was walking, having the encouragement that people were giving to me on the side of the road, it honestly gave you a spring in the step. For every beep, I'd say 2 Ks, where you just feel good and you go, right, I've got a purpose now. And when I was struggling on the weekend, I put it out on social media that I didn't think I could get through it, because in my mind I was at 18 hours or 17.5 hours into this walk where I continuously walked, and people were reaching out to me on social media saying, you can do it. And all they were saying, we're behind you, we've followed your journey, keep on going, you're doing it for a lot of people. It's amazing how much of a mindset that gets into your mindset, and you go, right, I can't quit, or I can't fold, because there are actually people that I forgot about that are reaching out and saying, listen, do it for these people, do it, you keep on going, you got this, be strong, or something like that. Just words of encouragement that then get you going. And I know there's a lot of negativity in life, but sometimes you just got to block that out and you just got to feed off the positive that's coming your way.
I love that, and I think the key word there for me out of that little response was purpose. Keeping close to your purpose and reminding yourself of that vision. Yep. If you've got purpose, then you've always got something to get out of bed for. You've always got something to keep 100%. Striving for, to keep working towards. But it's amazing that those positive words of encouragement is how we should be treating each other and empowering each other on a daily basis. And maybe we forget to maybe give each other compliments, or those words of advice that can be so...
Words of affirmation.
Change someone's day.
Acts of kindness. And it's like, I was brought up, getting back to my childhood, I was brought up that my mum and dad used to always tell me that they loved me and they were proud of me. So my wife and I, we do exactly the same thing with my kids. We always tell our kids how proud of them, of how we are of them, and who they are and what they are. And I always ask my kids if they're happy or sad or what's going on in their life. And they're only 10 or turning 10. The twins are turning 11, and Harper's 13, my eldest. But just giving them, it only takes 2 seconds to say, "Darling, I'm proud of you," and you see their lungs fill up, you see their chest poke forward, and you see their eyes light up and go, you know what, my dad's proud of me, or my mum's proud of me. Just little things like that. Like
so important.
It's so important.
So important.
And it's so easy to do.
It's actually the most important.
It is most
thing
important.
that you can do every day for your kids.
100% it is. And
you're an incredible role model for them.
And so many people don't do it.
Yeah.
So
true.
And all it takes 3 seconds to say, I'm proud of you, and then give them a cuddle. Even if they're there, you can give them a cuddle, even though my kids are at the age where they don't want a cuddle, but you still give them one. And like I said, you can see their lungs fill up, you can see their eyes widen.
Love it.
And they get a little bit of a peacock about them. So it's good.
Of course.
I like it, and you know, Courtney, my wife, she loves doing it as well. So wow, I'm very proud of my kids. So
what's next on the agenda for Fund My Challenge? Have you got the next vision, the next plan? Have you had any thoughts around that yet?
Me personally, I'm seriously thinking about walking from the Gold Coast to Melbourne next year. The following year from Melbourne to Adelaide, and then eventually over a 5-year period, say that I've walked around Australia. But moving forward with Fund My Challenge, we've partnered up with a lot of corporates that do a lot of good in the space of giving and looking after charities. We've got Corporate Fighter, they've come on board. We're working with those guys on how best to provide charities with money that they raise. We've got incredible ambassadors, Lincoln Lewis, Joel Parkinson, Chris Lynn. We've got all these sports stars, celebrities that want to give in the space of charity and help promote other people's challenges. And a challenge, I know it says Fund My Challenge, but a challenge can be, you know a kid who's going through chemo, that's their challenge, and you want to create awareness and you want to create some funds for their family that need it. We had the Brown Snakes. They did a 24-hour bike challenge on Friday. They raised, I think, upwards of $100,000 for one of their mates who has brain cancer and is in Germany that needs his treatment. So there's some really good things moving forward. There's challenges on the app currently for people to Tess, who works in the office. She's type 1 diabetes, and she's done a challenge for type 1 diabetes and raised $1,000 for her cause. So there's some world changers out there that want to do good. So it's a space that I wish that I was a part of when I was 18 years of age instead of being 39, 40.
Oh, these things happen at the right time for the right reason.
100% they do.
And every step you take is so valuable, and what you're doing with every single step is just phenomenal.
Yep.
I'm totally in awe. I think it's incredible. I love it. So I'm not going to complain about walk to work day on the 3rd of September. I prefer to run because it's faster.
Yes.
But walking's great, and it's so good for you, and there's so many benefits, walking in general, and just even promoting the health benefits of being active, which is always something I'm promoting to patients. So I love that side of it as well.
Yeah, it is a good space, and I live probably 40 k's from work, so I don't think I'll be walking the whole way to work.
Damn it!
Yeah, I'll have a crack though. I'll have a crack. I might have changed the office to Burleigh. That's about 10 k's away, so we'll see how we go.
That sounds okay. Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, and I hope we get to do this again, because I know there's going to be a lot more to talk about in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I'm open to coming here. I love talking,
Fabulous.
As you can tell. So, and I love talking about my journey. Yeah, so
it's awesome to hear.
Yeah, and if there is anyone out there that wants to jump on board and donate to or be involved with Fund My Challenge, it's a really good little platform at the moment that's gaining some momentum. We will
definitely make sure that we promote that link and that everybody can access it for you.
Thank you.
I have one final question.
Yes.
And this is something I like to ask all of the guests who come on the Wellness Warriors podcast. What does wellness mean to you?
Good question. Well, wellness for me is happiness. I think happiness within yourself, because then that resonates on other people. If you're happy, your mood infects people around you. And if you're happy and you're vibrant, then generally I think that your wellness, you're in the right path for healthy, happy wellness. And I think it all collides into one. And yeah, wellness is those things to me. It's about being infectious with your attitude and being upbeat and happy.
Amazing. Chris, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining the Wellness Warriors podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you online with us. If you enjoyed the series, please leave your review, subscribe and follow, and we look forward to sharing many more stories with you in the future.